Right, I want to talk about Mo Salah and his proposed move to Al-Ittihad. The Saudis are apparently obsessed with the idea, and I'd be interested to see what your guys' reaction is to it as well, because so far, watching the reactions of fans, pundits, even just professionals who actually work in the football industry, the people who scout and do all these kind of things, I've consulted a couple of these people in the past 24 hours, and I'm kind of fascinated by all the different conclusions that people make based on how basically emotionally invested in Liverpool these people are. I want to go through all of that. I want to break down some of it and probably why a move for Mo Salah won't happen, but why some people could make an argument as to why it should and why it might be right for all sides involved. Not that I think that Mo Salah should leave Liverpool. He is, of course, one of the greatest Liverpool players ever, not only in terms of scoring record, but in terms of impact, in terms of everything. You can't quantify everything that is Mo Salah. And I think that's partly why it's muddying the waters around how we feel about this move. Welcome back to the Lawrence McKenna channel. It's good to have you guys. If you haven't already subscribed, the button is down here, around here somewhere, but you don't have to do it just yet. If you want to do it at the end of the video, feel more than free to. Now, let's talk about it, right? Money in the game at the moment is a sore point for some fans. For other fans, they don't really care about it. Some people don't even want to hear about what the fee is. They just want to see their team play great football and play it with good players. But the question is, where do those players come from? How do you get those players? And really, is it about how you get the players, or is it about how you set them up? And obviously there's simple and complex answers to all of those things. Some of you are probably yelling at your screen right now, but the answer that you have, the idea that you have, really impacts the way that you feel about Mo Salah, right? He is one of Liverpool's greats. But on top of that, there is a system within which he plays, which for years was set up around getting the best out of Mo Salah. And frankly, with Jurgen Klopp's comments in his press conference, which are all about cash, which are all about Liverpool having to live within their means, the same kind of things as Billy Hogan is saying at the very top of Liverpool, within this idea of Liverpool have to sell to spend, or they have to make profit in order to spend, and missing out on things like the Champions League and all those kind of things make it more difficult for Liverpool to do that. It makes you think, and especially on the back of Jordan Henderson, Fabinho, other players going there, and Saudi almost paying over market value or equal to market value for those players. Could Liverpool have gotten 40 million elsewhere in Europe this season for Fabinho? Could they have got the transfer value for someone like Jordan Henderson and taken a big contract off their books and, possibly opened up more doors for other players, pay for a majority of the next transfers to come into Liverpool, if they do have more transfers to come into Liverpool and beyond? If it wasn't for Saudi Arabia saying, yes, we will pay you this money because we want these faces, we want these players involved in our project, and at the moment, money is no object. Probably not to this. Now, they could have got a percentage of what maybe they got from Saudi Arabia, but realistically, no, you probably wouldn't have got that for either of those players. Particularly bad season last season for Liverpool. People probably knew they were looking to move these players on at some point soon anyway. And on top of that, there's probably a lot of better value in the market if you spend just a little bit more. But of course, it is about convincing people to go to that Saudi project. And we know at the moment it's hard to quantify that. Now, we can talk about Saudi in a whole other video, but there are implications from what the Saudi project has, which impact teams like Liverpool. And weirdly, Saudi maybe seem relatively obsessed with some of the Liverpool players because Liverpool are quite a big project and product in the Middle East, right? Partly because of players like Mo Salah, partly because of the makeup of the squad, partly because of the success in recent years. That is going to have an impact on how people want to see those players. Now, Mo Salah is arguably one of, if not the biggest sporting, at least football star in the Arab world. Not that I particularly know a lot about sporting stars from the Arab world, but if you're talking about people who are heroed, if you're talking about people who are prominent, if you're talking about very prominent Muslim players in the world, and I mean globally rather than just in kind of Saudi and the surrounding area, Mo is prominent. He is probably one of the most prominent, if not the most prominent. And that is because he is a great player. That is because of what Liverpool have achieved with him, and arguably it is almost totally down to what Liverpool have achieved with him, because before that he was vastly underestimated, and maybe wouldn't have had the same level of profile. He would have been, I still think, Egypt's key star because, well, he is a brilliant player. But Liverpool have helped him reach new levels, and he has helped Liverpool in return for that, right? Now, within that, there is a lot to unpack. Not long ago, Liverpool were considering, and there was a debate around whether Mo Salah should stay at Liverpool. But the market value, because of where his contract was at, was relatively low. Because, well, he could just have run it down, or he could have basically said, look, I don't have long left, you've got to let me go for at least some money. And any big team, say a PSG or a Juventus or a Real Madrid or Barcelona, whoever it was that would have wanted him at that time, could have come in and got him at a steal for what they would have gotten, right? Because Mo Salah is still a great player. Even if he is older, he's not entering his peak, he's somewhat going through it right now, right? That created like a level of received knowledge, I think, at Liverpool that people then went, oh, right, yeah, like, of course Mo Salah's got to stay because we can't get market value, we can't get this, we can't get that. So what happens if someone then comes in and says, we're going to spend however much more than his market value is right now. We're going to spend double, if not triple what the value you could get elsewhere. It's not me saying I don't think he's valuable. It's me saying if I think Liverpool floated him tomorrow, or obviously they can't just float him because then they get less value, where would they see that value? What kind of value would they get? 50, 60, 75 million for Mo Salah? I'm just saying, like, give yourself a second to just consider it. And on top of that, if a player is motivated and people are saying, oh, he wants to hear what the offers are, he wants to understand the way that part of the world is gonna value him, he wants to see what he can get lifestyle-wise, he loves Liverpool, but then let's just consider for a second, and I get this in the industry, if you've got a player whose head's turned, if you've got a player who wants to understand what other people are offering, how good is that for your team? Jordan Henderson's head allegedly was turned. I mean, he went in the end, so allegedly it was turned. Fabinho's head allegedly was turned. I mean, obviously it was. He went to the manager and said, I want to go here. And Liverpool acquiesced on both of those, but I think really they were kind of going, we could get Lavia for X, we could get this guy for that. It probably went somewhat towards the bid for Caicedo, because it's like, well, we weren't thinking about losing these other players up until now. So if you've got players who don't want to be there, or they are questioning whether they want to be there, that's then up to Jurgen Klopp to manage it. I'm not saying Mo Salah doesn't want to be at Liverpool. And even just a few weeks ago, Rami Abbas said we wouldn't have signed a new contract at Liverpool this recently if we didn't want to be at the club. So yeah, fair enough. But on top of that, what do you then do when someone like Saudi Arabia comes in and gives you an extortionate fee which you could then reinvest quite effectively within Europe? Now, let's just assess for a second how effectively you could reinvest that when someone knows you're sitting on a pile of cash, bigger than, the Joker burned in Batman. You're sitting on, basically, a club saying to you, we know how much money you have, we know what we can get from you, spend it, give it to us. You're not the top of the food chain then. You are getting what someone else has given you, and then you're passing that on. Essentially then you're really even the top of the food chain, because what you're trying to do is, Liverpool are then in a position of weakness because they can't just go away from the Mo Salah deal and go, well, we'll struggle through the season. They won't have anyone out in that right wing in that position. Putting Jota in that position, fine. They don't have Firmino anymore. You could say Szoboszlai might be a player that could get in that position, but we've not seen him play there. We actually like him in other positions at Liverpool. Even in Poland, they managed to get me with a siren. It's incredible. So when you assess the Mo Salah thing and you look at the possibility of him leaving, it seems like, oh, of course on FIFA I would go and get Leroy Sané. Of course I would go and get this winger, this guy, that guy. All of these people would be readily available for 100 million or whatever it is. But can you realistically go out there and, if you're Liverpool, go, well, we'll just have to spend whatever now? You've got a player who has been a leader through example, but also by putting his arm around players. Harvey Elliott loves him. I think Fabio Carvalho really liked him. I think a number of, Trent really gets on with him. Hendo really got on with him. There are a number of players at Liverpool who love this guy because of his, not redeeming, they are qualities which make him someone you can respect. He's a man with a lot of order in his life. He's an incredibly religious person. He's someone who has a family that he respects and loves. On top of that, he's also someone who's performed very consistently for Jurgen Klopp. And despite what people say about an outburst last week or whatever it was where, he was angry because I think Colwill had kind of gotten the better of him and then he was taken off. And the week after that, again, it didn't go swimmingly. Like, There are a series of things where you go, right, Jurgen Klopp can deal with all of those things. Whatever the Liverpool replacement is, I think it's probably worth acknowledging this Liverpool generation feel, but not aren't, irreplaceable. Van Dijk feels irreplaceable. Mane felt irreplaceable. And Liverpool haven't really attempted to replace him in exactly like-for-like terms, probably because they want to progress tactically. Now that brings me on to my next question. You can have the best player in the world, and because of positionism and not relationism? Yeah. You could play a potentially overpowered player in that position, or a player that has incredible attributes, and they would still maybe not suit the position. And Liverpool have built a position around Mo Salah in recent years. Now, to an extent, that's actually changed more recently. Like last season, he looked quite isolated. There were times where you question whether he was the best player for that position. A lot of people spoke ridiculously about whether he'd gotten settled or was resting on his laurels because he got a new contract. I don't think it was that. I think tactically, Liverpool didn't quite know where Mo Salah fit into that, or how they could make him effective being so isolated where he was, right? They were trying to do something, and I'm still trying to unpack what it was. A few really smart people did. Now, with that then, you go, right, so how would Leroy Sané fit into the squad? Maybe I'll do a video on that. How would choose another right winger? There aren't many out there at the moment for decent value. There aren't many people you look at if you're Liverpool and go, that will be equal to or an upgrade on in the immediate term. And what you're showing people at that point is, do we really think we have the aspirations to win the league, get back in the top four, consistently challenge within this league? Or are we becoming again that middle section of sides who are just competing for the top four? Because what that requires is a certain level of character, a certain type of player who's going to say, I'm in for that. I can invest in that project. But you only get 3 to 4 seasons. Alisson is the best, if not one of the best goalkeepers in the world, right? Van Dijk, captain of Liverpool, one of the best centre-backs, very consistently for Liverpool. The same for Mo Salah. The same for if you wanted to say Luis Diaz. The same for if you wanted to say Cody Gakpo. The same for if you wanted to say any new player that Liverpool have signed, Szoboszlai. Just all of these different brilliant players that if Real Madrid, if another continental team came in for them and Liverpool are sitting in 8th position, how many of them would go, I've had some good seasons here, but I've not won anything in recent years? Now that all feeds into the point of, tactically, I think Liverpool love Mo Salah in that position right now. I think he really does fit, and he's refound that position that he was looking for. Klopp and he and Pep and everyone else have found the position that they like for him. He's very much more effective in that position with this free-roaming Trent just behind him, Szoboszlai doing some of the good work that he's already doing out there, spreading himself out across the field, Gakpo doing what he needs to do, hook up wires left, coming inside, and then that allows Salah to be a little more inside rather than the outside. You get what I'm saying? There's a dynamic there that Liverpool are working on that they love. There was the cross for the first Liverpool goal of the season, the competitive season, where he pings the most perfect through ball, splitting the defenders between Colwill and Thiago, and at the back post, there is Luis Diaz. There's an understanding there that Mo Salah has with the other players. It's not to say that Liverpool won't be able to find someone else in the long run who can do that. But in the immediate term, the immediate squad, who could you bet in that would do similar? And to an extent, yes, this isn't just about money and business. Someone can come in, and I get it, like the emotional impact of someone saying to you, we will make you the highest paid player in the league. Ronaldo's on something like 1.7 million a week. Neymar's on similar, I think, if not equivalent. And to have then Mo Salah come in and then just be like, we're going to hero you. You're going to be in a region of the world where they understand culturally so much more about you, at least directly and broadly. I'm not saying people don't understand Muslim people in the UK, but you get exactly what I'm saying. And on top of that, we're going to make you a king. Not literally, though Liverpool have kind of done that anyway. And that must be alluring. You must think generational wealth for my family forever. Like, you can't spend that. I mean, maybe in Saudi you can, but you can't spend that kind of money if you live, relatively well for the rest of your life. Mo Salah will live well for the rest of his life if he went to Saudi. And in fact, he could go there in a year, 2 years, and still probably be a heroed player of that part of the world. But at the same time, that offer might not be there in a couple of years because Saudi might have to have reined a little bit in. At the moment, while they're not being respected, while people are looking at them as a bit of a they're not, but a bit of a circus, a bit of a, hey, you know, this, are they really serious? How long is this really going to last? All these kind of things. No one reins them in. But in the end, like Simon Jordan said, they will be brought into line. Like other people have said, they will have to fall into line because market forces, you know, regulation, all these kind of things. Now, it's very difficult to regulate such rich people, hence why Liverpool and a couple of other teams have lost really quite significant players to them. But that is kind of where the interesting bit sits here, right? At what point does it become worth your time to move on a player that you love? And it is that, isn't it? It's so emotionally wrapped up that we love this guy. Week in, week out, I love watching him. Week in, week out, I love celebrating those goals. We've made a connection to this guy. He's like 5th in the all-time scoring list for Liverpool. He's behind Billy Little, which is like maybe 2-3 more seasons for him. And I don't think he's ever going to get to the top of that list because there's like another double, basically, his goals. So then there is a question around that, right? We love him. He clearly loves Liverpool. He has always enjoyed it. I mean, not always, but he's often enjoyed it. And it seems that he's made a bit of a life for himself. What then? And on top of that, I want to just float a kind of a bit of a conspiracy theory, but nothing else. If you wanted to, if say you're Saudi and you know the people, you are not the people, but you know the people who invested in other clubs, and Liverpool aren't one of them, and you wanted to disrupt someone that you thought was particularly annoying to you because you want to try and ensure top 4, what would you do? You would try to unsettle their top players. You go to Alisson, you go to Salah, and you go, how happy are you really at this club? Are you really happy? Or would you be happy with generational wealth? That player is then obviously a professional, but they're going to work and thinking, what conversation do I need to have with who around here to work out what the long-term plan is here? How happy are we, you know? And no one's saying that these guys are then going in and turning their back on Liverpool or any of those things. But if you want to unsettle people, what you do is you go in and you offer them the riches of the world, right? They've already got a lot of those. But what you offer them is like a key which unlocks so much more. You offer to make them a centerpiece for your whole league. And suddenly, like, especially if they're from that region of the world, or they understand that region of the world better, or they have a more international global mind. People coming from Brazil will understand that there is more than just England in the world. People who come from Egypt will understand that there is more than just England. And in fact, England don't even understand a huge part of that. They don't even understand the way the rest of the world might look at them and go, well, we really like this part of the world. And actually, the way you live is weird to us, with your carpets and your indoor dogs. That's a very specific comment, but you get what I'm saying, right? And politics and all these kind of things, right? So all I'm saying is, obviously it is open and shut for a lot of Liverpool fans. I don't want to see any amazing Liverpool legend leave. But if we assess what Klopp said, if we assess him hinting at the transfers he made a couple of years ago where they went, well, we had a lot more money to spend that season. Phil Coutinho left. Phil. Yeah, but he calls him Phil. We bought Van Dijk, Alisson, a couple of other little pieces went together. Is he kind of hinting at the fact that, of course, we don't want to lose Salah, but in the long run, if you want to upgrade your squad and you can find market value for these guys, there is kind of a cut-off point where you go, it's been fantastic, I'll drive you to the airport myself kind of thing. And 175 million, whatever it is that they're willing to pay Liverpool, which they won't pay 175 million, but you get my point. If they're willing to pay something extortionate for him, can you really turn that down? Or do Liverpool as a club have an obligation to the fan base to go, listen, you love him, we love watching him, but we could reinvest that in 3 other players, defender, midfielder, and a forward, who would all in 3 to 5 years most possibly be what you want them to be right now. And on top of that, us being Liverpool, we have more of a pull. So it isn't just 175 million and it's been great. Like, Liverpool have a history. There is a fan base there that people want to play for. Of course, some of that is rhetoric from the players. They know how to say that to get into certain fans' good books, right? But of course also it's amazing to play at Anfield. So what I'm interested in almost, what I'm like, there is an intangible which Sky Sports aren't covering right now. There is an intangible which the reporting isn't really getting to, which is the feelings around it do impact how much money there is. Because Saudi, the people at the top understand that if you want to get people to watch your product, it isn't just about getting anyone to play football, it's about getting the football people. But at the same time, Liverpool understand there is a huge marketing aspect of their own in the Middle East, in other parts of the world, because Mo Salah is such a prominent player, because he is so consistent, respected, loved by so many people around the world. Because he is a marketable face in so many different markets. Because he scores goals. And because he's a great footballer. Because probably their manager loves him. Because if you take your best player, one of your best players off your manager, and then go, try and cope now, how does that degrade the relationship between Klopp and those people around him? And this is another thing we shouldn't really overlook, right? Don't overlook the fact that Jurgen Klopp consistently says, I want to be here, I have to work within the parameters. So the parameters that are being laid out to him are what he considers to be acceptable. That's not me saying that he wouldn't find it acceptable if they sold Salah. But he is a cover star for that previous generation of Liverpool. This is the new generation now. But there has to be a point where you basically say, how many leaders can Liverpool lose in one summer? How many excellent voices in the dressing room, example setters, people who consistently perform the way the manager wants them to, can Liverpool lose and keep moving forward? It's not a Rocky quote. But you get what I'm saying. I'd be interested in what your thoughts are. It's not a ramble. I feel like there's a lot of, it was a ramble, but there are a lot of details to unpack, so I'm interested to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below, would you sell or keep Mo Salah? At what point is it that you have to have your head turned? And at what point is it that you also say, no, like, we want Mo Salah, we draw a line in the sand here. We like this guy, he's a club legend. Liverpool in the past, of course, have lost other club legends. And some of them have wanted to go. Kevin Keegan, Hamburg, Liverpool got Dalglish on the back of that. Kenny Matheson, Dalglish. There's like that was the chair. There's an element of it's hard to move on because you love what you've got. And Keegan was an incredible player for Liverpool. But immediately what came after Keegan, well, you get what I'm saying? It's a tricky one. I'd love to know how you guys unpack it. Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you again in a little while. Much love. Bye.